Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
As Britain freezes, so too do the thousands sleeping rough in towns and cities across the country. Whilst the majority of us worry about staying warm, for those on the streets, the priority is staying alive in sub-zero temperatures. Figures from the Department of Local Government reveal the problem is getting worse. An estimated 4,134 people now sleeping rough every night in England, the number more than doubling since 2010. In the first of a series of reports on homelessness, Paul McNamara has been speaking to rough sleepers out in the cold in Manchester and in Stafford.
The quiet hours of the night are cold in Manchester. Last night, they were freezing. Few can appreciate, though, just how long and cold a night can be. Like these people.
Well, it's just after 1 a.m. It's absolutely freezing, and there are still people on the streets, people bedding down for the night.
It is bad, but I've got 3 pairs of tracky bottoms on, 3 pairs of socks, 5 t-shirts, jumpers, so we get used to it after a bit.
Alan has been sleeping rough for the last 5 months. The last few nights, though, have been a test.
What about if it gets much colder than this, though?
I don't know, to be honest. Some lad who we know died a couple of days ago through the weather. I think it was only about 38 or something like that. It was a drinker, but he died from the cold, like, he just didn't wake up.
Alan's spot is in one of the more glamorous enclaves of the city centre, where the sounds of extreme wealth punctuate our chat. When the temperature drops suddenly, the city council does make extra spaces available for rough sleepers. But a friend of Alan's explains sometimes the streets feel safer.
I feel safe at this spot, and people that are around me feel safe at this spot. That's what I'm saying. But if I was in one of these homeless provisions or homeless hostels that they do give, I wouldn't feel safe.
So you actually don't want to go to one of them?
No, basically I don't. I'm not going to lie to you, and that's not me saying like that I am not grateful of the offer. It's just that I'm saying that I would sleep a lot easier out here. And you know what I mean, that could send
because
somebody,
you know all the people that are near you and you feel...
Yeah, these people that are in these like hostels, they could rob off you any minute, so you're like, whoa, sleeping with one eye open. You've got to look over your shoulder every time. That can send a man scatty and give him mental health problems, you know what I mean?
Yep.
The cold doesn't respect geography this winter. An hour south in Stafford, the temperature's even lower and the snow piled high. Too cold for shopfront bedrooms.
We've obviously experienced bad winters over the last 7 years, but nothing quite as bad as what we've experienced in the UK.
For 7 years, Will Morris has provided a lifeline to Stafford's rough sleepers. He's witnessed 2 things, he says: a huge rise in the numbers looking for help and an entire system that needs to be overhauled.
But the fact is, the method and the process that's operating across the UK at the moment, somewhere it's successful, somewhere less successful, ultimately it's failing the people in need because it's not joined up enough. And also, people have to be more flexible.
2 days a week, people can come here for food, support, warmth. Today is not one of them, but sometimes needs must.
I mean, talk me through it. Like, 6 months is a long time, but the few months before this month haven't been anywhere near as bad weather-wise, have they?
Well, mate, it's breaking me, man. Seriously, you know what I mean? It's hard going, man. It's not just the snow, what's happened the last week or so. It's time period, you know what I mean? It's, you know, dirty clothes all the time, stinking, hungry all the time. You know what I mean? It's the package, you know what I mean? I just want a nice, warm, comfy bed just to sleep in for one night, you know what I mean?
Dwayne and his friend Michael are on the street every night. Sometimes they have a tent.
A tent doesn't sound much
freezing,
in this
and everything's soaking wet and freezing cold. It's bad. It's only changed recently. It's never been this bad, has it?
We asked Michael what the hardest thing about living on the streets was, especially in this weather. His answer as uncomfortable to hear as it is honest.
Waking up in the morning, dread it. Dread waking up. You know, once you get your head down at night, I hate waking up. Wondering what the day brings.
Well, Stafford Borough Council have told us this evening that they are not turning anyone away from their emergency accommodation, and they'll even find them space in bed and breakfast if the spaces get full. But, you know, just this evening, we've seen someone just around the corner already bedding down for the evening, already getting ready to spend their night out here. And this isn't an issue just isolated to Stafford. It's not even an issue isolated to when the weather is this cold. I'll leave you just this one statistic just to give you an idea of how big a problem this is. Since 2010, just 7 years, in just England alone, the number of rough sleepers has more than doubled.
Thanks, Paul McNamara. Now, earlier I spoke to the Mayor of Manchester, Andy Burnham. He's made tackling the city's homelessness problems, well, and their rough sleeping in particular, his key objectives. I began by asking him what, given the current cold snap, is being done right now.
Well, here in Greater Manchester are 10 councils working with me as Mayor. We took a decision to enhance the cold weather provision here. So now if the temperature drops below freezing on any night, there'll be emergency shelter made immediately available. That's not happening everywhere, but we feel we've done the right thing here in Greater Manchester in opening our doors, and the fire service are helping us actually. So some of our fire stations have been in use providing emergency shelter for people. So we're doing what we can, John. Are there potentially enough shelters for rough sleepers to be got into? Possibly not. You know, we're working hard at that. I've established the Mayor's Homelessness Fund, which is raising money to open more shelters for people. That is coming through. That extra capacity is coming through, but I couldn't say tonight that it's in all communities at the right level. This is a huge challenge, and we're working very hard to ensure that we have the shelters we need in all communities. Very often, rough sleeping is a consequence of having fallen through the homelessness net, and one senses that in our big cities, the drive is not to provide housing or homes for people at the bottom end of the equation. As Mayor of Manchester, are you able to do anything to try and challenge this? I am, and we are going to bring forward a new housing policy here in Greater Manchester soon, John, to put that emphasis where it should be, building homes for people that they can truly afford. But alongside that, I would say a big issue that needs to be addressed, and this needs to be addressed nationally, is regulating the private rented sector. You know, we have a situation in this country where there are, I'm afraid to say, large numbers of unscrupulous private landlords who threaten to evict people, you know, from one week to the next. And our failure as a country to regulate the private rented sector, I think, is a large part of the problem we face now. People are being evicted from properties in that private rented sector, and that is one of the largest drivers of the problem that we're seeing unfold before our eyes. You've had 6 months' experience as Mayor. Can you foresee the capacity of the Mayor in this position actually to invade rough sleeping, perhaps do away with it altogether, and indeed invade homelessness as well? I have set Greater Manchester the challenge of ending it by 2020. And we think that is achievable. If I can pull together the contribution of the public, private, voluntary and faith sectors behind that drive, we think we can do it. In 2017, it should be possible, in my view, to put a roof over every head every night of the week. 6 months in, is there any sign of genuine progress in bringing people together on fighting this rough sleeping? We are getting somewhere, John. There is no doubt about it. We will achieve our goal of ending rough sleeping here by 2020. However, and this is a difficult thing to say, last month, a 31-year-old man who I knew from my former constituency of Lee died on the streets there of pneumonia, and that is the reality. We haven't got the provision that we need at the moment, and we urgently need to open our eyes to the humanitarian crisis that is unfolding before our eyes on the streets of Britain. We're trying to do that here, but there's a long way to go until we can truly say we've got a grip on the problem.
Mr Mayor, Andy Burnham, thank you very much indeed for talking to us.
Thank you.
I've been